are to find all solutions for the equation. So we have 3x cubed minus 3x squared plus x being equal to b. So this is what we have now. What I'm going to do next is we want to find the possible values of x, but in this case realize that we have a cube polynomial over here. So what I'm going to do is to multiply through by 9. Now why am I multiplying through by 9? Because I want to get a perfect cube or any perfect square, so that we can reduce it to a value, then therefore equate it to the right hand side and get the value of x, right? So let's multiply through by 9. So we are multiplying through by 9. So say multiply through by 9. So we are just multiplying through by 9. So we just have 27x cubed here. So we have 27 cube s cubed minus 27 s cubed here also, then plus 9, right? Then being equal to just, so we have 9b here. Now still it's still not a perfect square. To get a perfect square, we just subtract. So we subtract -1 from both sides, right? So we have 27s cubed minus 27, remember it's s squared, sorry, s squared plus 9 here, 9x, sorry, then minus 1. We are subtracting -1 from both sides, right? Now realize that the right hand side is a perfect square. It's a perfect square, in the sense that when you have 3x minus 1 to the power squared, it should give you the whole of this, right? So we are going to replace, sorry, cube, we are going to replace that. So we have 3x minus 1 cube here being equal to 9b minus 1, right? Okay, so from here we have so basically, in order to find the value of x, we just apply cube root to both sides. So we apply cube root, so we have cube root of just 3x minus 1 here, cube 9 minus 1 here, and then the cube root. So this gets rid of that. Then from there we have this one here being just 3x here, right, minus 1 here being equal to the cube root of 9b minus 1. So x 3x here will be equal to, sending this to the other side, we have plus 1 here, then x here will just be the cube root of 9b minus 1 plus 1 over 3, right? So this is what we have for x. So this, we are going to get 3 possible values for x, right? 3 possible values of x. So this is the first part. Now let's go back to where we started to find the value of x. We said that we have 3x minus 1 cube here being equal to 9b minus 1, right? So let's do it in this way also. So let's make this has a power of cube of a power of cube. So let's make this power, it has a power of 1, so let's make this power also cube. So to make that, we have 3 minus 1 to the power that, then we can apply cube root here, 9b, right? But then also we cube it, right? So this cube here cancel that, and we are still back to that, right? So we can write it in this way. So let's bring it to this side. So we have that cube minus the cube root of 9b minus 1 here, then all to the power cube being equal to 0, right? Okay, so what we are going to do is to set these values here to a variable, right? So let's say let c be equal to just 3x minus 1, and let's say d here is equal to the cube root of 9b minus 1. So if that is the case, then in this case, all of this representing, now we have c cube here minus d cube here being equal to 0. Now the question is, how do we factor this? So we have realized that we have a difference of 2 cube, right? So what we are going to do is to factor it out, right? So factoring this out, we can have in this case we have c minus d here, and then also we can have c squared plus cd plus d squared, right? Yeah, so we can have this just the square of that. So what we did was c minus d here, and that of c minus d, c plus d here, all squared, right? Now when we simplify this or simplify that, we should get this, right? Okay, so this is what we have, and remember this should be equal to 0. So for the first one here, we take c minus d here being equal to 0, right? And therefore we can say that c is basically equal to d. So if c is equal to d, then we can actually conclude that for c equal to d, then we have 3x here minus 1 here being equal to that minus 1 here, and we have just x here will basically be 9b here minus 1 plus 1 here being divided by 3, which is equivalent to the first equation over there. Now, so if we have this, so we take the second part, so we take this being equal to 0. So we have c squared plus cd here plus d squared being equal to 0 here, right? Now remember, we are looking for x in this case also. So let's do this. Now we are going to simplify this using completing of squares. So using completing of squares, let's do that. So completing of square, we have c squared here plus cd here, but remember we can have, so remember this this is basically the we are looking for c, so we can have, so in completing of squares we have d here, and also we square it, right? We have it and also square it, we have it and also square it, and this will be over here we can have 3d squared, right, being divided by 4. Now why am I writing it in this way? Now you realize that if we have d squared, and over that, and we put this together, so we have d squared over that, and we put them together, realize that we are going to get so over here, right, over here, so over here we're going to get d squared over 4, right? And here we are going to get 3d squared over 4. When we add them together, right, when we add them together, we are going to get 4d squared divided by 4. It will cancel out, and we still have our d, right? So we can put it this way, right? Okay, so from here we have just the c plus d being divided by 2, then all squared. So when we expand this, right, we should get that, right, plus 3d squared here over 4, then we have being equal to 0, right? Now let's send this to the other side. So we have c d over 2 here squared being equal to 3d squared, so it's negative, then 4, right? Okay, so to get rid of the square, we apply square root to both sides, c plus d over 2, then the square root, so we have the square root of that. Now if we look at this, for d being equal to, let's say, plus or minus, right, then we are saying that 3d over that will be less than 0, right? It will be less than 0 because of the negative. So basically over here we are going to have, when we put the square, we're just going to have plus or minus outside, then we have our 3d squared over 4, right? Okay, so let's further simplify this. So from here we have this square cancelling the square root here, and we can have c plus d over 2 being equal to plus or minus the square root of 3d squared over 4. So remember, we are looking for c, so c here will be equal to negative d over 2 here, then plus or minus, so we can have 3d squared being divided by just 2, right? So over here we just have negative d plus or minus 3d squared over 2 over 2, right? Okay, now look at this. Now remember, we have negative here, so I forgot to bring the negative, so we have negative here. Now what is negative 1? Negative 1 is just I squared, right? So we can write this, so we can have 3. Now the negative becomes I squared, and we have d squared, right, being divided by 2, right? Okay, so we have c here being equal to negative d plus or minus, we just have 3 here, then we are left with just I and therefore d outside being divided by 2. Now what is c? We assumed that we set c to some variables, right? We said c should be 3x minus 1, right? And therefore d should be 3, remember it's negative here, so it is the cube root of 9b minus 1. So we are just substituting that into that. So we have root of 3, then therefore we have d here being cube root of 9b minus 1. Then remember there is I, so we add the I here, it's multiplying, being divided by 2. So we can have, we are looking for x, right? So 3x can be equal to negative 3, then 9b minus 1, then plus or minus 3 here, then we have cube root of 9b minus 1 I, then we can have plus 1 here being divided by 2. So at the end of the day we just have this being 3 square root of 9b minus 1 here, then plus or minus 3 cube root of 9b, so we have 9b minus 1 here, right? Then we have I, so we can have I here plus 1, but I is out of the square root, so being divided by just 6, right? So this will be the third equation, and the first and second equation was the same, which is just 3 square root of 9b minus 1 here plus 1 here being divided by 3 here. So this will be the possible values of x. Thank you very much for joining me in this section. If this is the first time here, please subscribe, like, and also share, and also leave a comment. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in another section.